Many who have chosen to follow this path report a noticeable increase in their physical endurance. They find they have more energy to train, to work, and to create. They describe an increase in their willpower and their ability to focus, and some even report an improvement in their physical posture. It's as if they become more complete, more solid, more present in their own bodies. And here is where things get truly curious. The body seems to learn how to store and preserve this vital energy. In the ancient tradition of Taoism, this essential life force is called Jing. It is an essential energy that is believed to be consumed, for example, through frequent ejaculation. According to this ancestral wisdom, preserving this Jing energy strengthens the internal organs, fortifies the immune system, and can even increase one's life expectancy. Of course, a great deal depends on how the individual handles this accumulating energy. If they repress it, deny it, or feel constantly frustrated by it, the body suffers. Cortisol, the stress hormone, can increase. This buildup of unresolved tension can lead to chronic anxiety, insomnia, and various body aches. But if the energy is managed with awareness, if it is channeled with a clear goal in mind, the body flourishes. The quality of one's breathing changes, the skin can become clearer, and even one's entire attitude and demeanor can shift. It's as if the body learns to circulate this powerful sexual energy like an internal electric current, without ever needing to discharge it outward. The person becomes, in a subtle but palpable way, more magnetic, more centered, and more vital. In fact, modern studies have begun to examine the effects of movements like NoFap, which encourages men to avoid pornography and masturbation for extended periods of time. Many participants in this movement report improved self-esteem, greater mental clarity, and even enhanced physical and social performance. So, yes, a life without sex transforms the body. It does so not as a punishment, but as a fundamental reorientation of its resources. It's as if a kind of natural intelligence within the body reorganizes everything internally, realizing that the primary goal of life is no longer the pursuit of desire, but the cultivation of presence. And the chosen ones know this. They don't fight against their bodies. They live in harmony with them, but they guide them in a different direction. A question has loomed over humanity since antiquity, whispered in monasteries, debated in philosophical circles, and explored in sacred texts. Could it be that by consciously distancing themselves from sex, human beings can awaken something greater within themselves? An invisible force, a kind of spiritual power? Could it be that this potent sexual energy, if not exhausted in its usual expression, can be transformed into something sacred? The great spiritual traditions of the world have affirmed this possibility for millennia. From the Tibetan monks in their mountain monasteries to the Indian yogis in their ashrams, from the priests and mystics of the Christian desert tradition to the Sufi poets and even the European alchemists and Taoist masters, they all spoke of the same fundamental truth, though they used different words. They all taught that sexual energy is sacred energy, and when this energy is not used for physical pleasure, it can be used to nourish the soul. But this is not just poetry. It is a real, lived experience, and many of the chosen ones feel it viscerally in their bodies, their minds, and, most importantly, their souls. In a state of deep celibacy, one that is lived with awareness, with discipline, and with a powerful determination, a fundamental shift in the direction of energy occurs. The energy that previously flowed outward, downward, seeking physical contact and orgasm, literally begins to rise. In the tradition of yoga, this phenomenon is called the awakening of Kundalini. It is described as a latent, serpent-like energy coiled at the base of the spine. Once awakened, this energy rises up through the body's subtle energy channels, known as nadis, and activates the primary centers of consciousness, the chakras. When this energy begins to arise, the body itself can vibrate differently. The person may feel inexplicable thrills, waves of energy, or sudden flashes of insight. The heart center can feel as if it is expanding, and perception itself becomes sharper, more vivid. Some even report having visions, intensely lucid dreams, and experiencing states of ecstasy without any physical contact with another person. In Taoism, this same practice is described as the transmutation of sexual energy. It is as if the semen or the sexual fluids themselves are transformed into a form of inner light. And this light, according to the ancient masters, nourishes the brain, strengthens the spirit, and promotes longevity. It is a true form of inner alchemy. This is the true magic, invisible to the outside world, but deeply palpable to the one experiencing it. But a word of caution is necessary here. This does not mean that everyone who lives without sex will automatically achieve enlightenment. Nor does it mean that simply stopping all sexual activity will be enough to reach higher spiritual levels. Much more is required. It takes a clear and unwavering intention. Discipline is absolutely essential. The key, the secret that unlocks this entire process, is not to repress desire, but to channel it. A desire that is repressed out of anger or fear becomes a festering shadow within the psyche. But when that same desire is accepted, honored, and lovingly redirected, it becomes an immense power. And this power is not a power used to dominate others, but a power used to transform oneself. Over time, many of the chosen ones report a tangible expansion of their consciousness. They begin to see the world and their place in it with a newfound clarity. They develop a deeper empathy for others. Their intuition becomes sharper and more reliable, and their overall sensitivity to the energies around them increases. Some find that they can begin to heal others with their hands. Others are compelled to write, to paint, to meditate, or to teach. It is as if the energy that was once lost in the pull of instinct has now been transformed into a life's mission. And even if no one else sees them, even if the world around them finds them strange, they remain determined on their path. They are no longer seeking pleasure. They are cultivating presence. And in this state of deep presence, spirituality ceases to be a distant idea or a belief system. It becomes a natural, effortless state of being. Sooner or later, every person who embarks on this chosen path reaches an inner crossroads. It is a critical turning point, a moment of profound realization. It is the moment when they understand that simply avoiding sex is not enough. They see that denying desire does not solve the fundamental problem. They learn, often through difficult experience, that repression is not synonymous with transformation. This is the turning point where many fail, and only a few succeed. For at the beginning of the journey, celibacy may seem like nothing more than abstinence. It can feel like a simple decision to stop doing something, a mechanical effort to repress one's natural urges and to silence one's own body. But the body cannot be silenced so easily, nor can the mind or the primal instincts, which are the product of centuries of animal evolution. And so, internal conflicts inevitably arise. Erotic dreams become more frequent and vivid. Intrusive thoughts appear out of nowhere and terrible. Powerful desires can surface with shocking intensity. It's as if a person's inner energy grows stronger and more insistent the more they try not to think about it. And if we try to control this energy through violence, through guilt, or through fear, we fall into a destructive, vicious circle of repression. Repression is like setting fire to a closed box. You may contain the flames for a while, but sooner or later the pressure builds and the box breaks. This is the point where many give up. They turn back to sex as a safety valve to release the pressure, and then they feel guilty. They beat themselves up, and they forget the most important lesson. It is not about repressing desire, but about transforming it. Transformation is something else entirely. It is a completely different approach. It's like taking that same fire and, instead of trying to stamp it out, learning how to transform it into light. It is about recognizing desire when it arises, looking it directly in the eye, feeling its immense power, and then, instead of blindly following it, consciously channeling it in another direction. Many of the chosen ones learn this art gradually. It is not a magical, instantaneous step, but a patient, daily process. They begin to understand, through direct experience, that the very same energy that awakens sexual desire can also be the energy that awakens creativity. that the powerful impulse that once sought fleeting pleasure can be transformed into an equally powerful impulse to create, to write, to meditate, to train the body, and to heal the world. Some practice conscious breathing techniques to move this energy through their bodies. Others use meditation to observe the energy without being controlled by it. And still others learn to channel their energy into their art, their work, or into acts of service to the world. But they all have one thing in common. They do not fight their desire. They transcend it. Have you ever wondered what really happens to your body and mind when you live without sex? Not as a consequence of guilt or trauma or a deep-seated repression, but as a conscious choice. A decision made from a place of clarity, so profound and so absolute that it changes everything that comes after. It has the power to reshape your thoughts, to redirect your energy, and to redefine your very sense of self. Today, we journey into a world that few dare to explore, a realm of existence that our modern culture often misunderstands, dismisses, or fears. We are diving into the life of those who choose celibacy, not as a form of punishment, but as a deliberate and powerful path to transformation. This is a story about a different kind of power, a different kind of freedom, and a different kind of fulfillment. It is the story of those we might call the chosen ones. People who live a sexless life and, contrary to what many might believe, lack absolutely nothing. In fact, some of them claim to gain something extraordinary, something that most people will never have the chance to experience in their entire lifetime. The central question that will guide us on this deep exploration is this: what truly happens in the body and mind of a person who lives without sex for years, or even for decades? What are the real, tangible changes that occur in their biochemistry, in the landscape of their emotions, and in the very lens through which they view the world and themselves? Is there suffering? Are there superpowers to be gained? Is there, at the end of this path, a profound and unshakable peace? But before we can hope to answer these questions, we must first understand who these chosen ones are and why they are called that. We are not talking about beings who are spiritually superior or untouchable, enlightened masters floating above the concerns of the everyday world. We call them chosen because at a certain pivotal moment in their lives, they were chosen by life itself. They were called by a quiet inner voice, a deep and undeniable intuition, or a calling to follow a path that most people around them do not, and perhaps cannot, understand. These are individuals who felt, with a certainty that transcended logic, that their sexual energy could be channeled into other, higher areas of life. They sensed it could become the fuel for boundless creativity, for deep spirituality, for transcendent art, and for a life filled with profound meaning. This doesn't mean for a moment that they don't experience desire. It simply means they have learned to manage it differently, to relate to it in ways that few others ever do. Some of these individuals come to this path through ancient traditions, wisdom, streams like yoga, tantra, and Buddhism. Others have never set foot inside a temple or read a sacred text, but have found their own way to live without sex in the deep, instructive silence of their own experience. They do not seek fame, they do not court attention, and they do not gather followers. And yet they are here, present among us, their inner worlds intact and vibrant. Today, you will begin to understand who these chosen ones are. And perhaps, just perhaps, you will discover a part of yourself that recognizes this universe, a part that resonates with this path more than you ever imagined. Imagine for a moment what happens inside the mind of someone who decides to consciously step away from one of the most intense and primal urges in human nature, sexual desire. When one of the chosen ones embarks on this path, a change begins to unfold, slowly, subtly, and often invisibly to the outside world. At first, the journey seems anything but easy. The mind, which has been accustomed to a lifetime of constant stimulation, tries to resist this new direction. It rebels, it demands, it provokes, it tests the resolve of the individual at every turn. Desire does not simply vanish overnight. It continues to manifest itself, knocking at the door of consciousness, whispering memories of the past and creating vivid, enticing fantasies. The body, which has been conditioned by years, even decades of habit, demands what it believes it needs for survival and happiness. But then, if one persists, something begins to shift. It is a slow, almost imperceptible change at first, but it is real. The vast reservoir of energy that once fueled desire, that was constantly seeking an external outlet, begins a profound process of transformation. This energy does not die, it is never destroyed, it simply changes its direction. It turns inward, and when that happens, the entire inner landscape of the person changes with it. People who walk this path for a significant time often describe a strange and wonderful clarity that descends upon them. It's as if dozens of busy, noisy browser tabs in their mind have suddenly been closed. The constant underlying noise of modern life begins to fade away. That perpetual restlessness, the state of always waiting for something, for someone, for a message, a meeting, a touch, it simply disappears. And in the space that is left behind, something new and precious begins to grow. Focus, a deep sense of presence, and an unshakable inner calm. But make no mistake, this is not magic. It is a process. And like any deep transformative process, it comes with its own set of formidable challenges. In the early stages, the mind may desperately seek to compensate for the lack of sexual stimulation. It might turn to overwork, to overeating, or to any number of other distractions. Feelings of irritability, bouts of insomnia, and even waves of profound sadness can appear. After all, for many, sex was once an important outlet, a safety valve for emotional pressure. When that door closes, other, older doors inside the self begin to open, and what lies behind them isn't always pleasant or enjoyable. Sometimes these doors open to our old fears, our forgotten wounds, and our most hidden insecurities. It is at this critical juncture that many people give up. They retreat from the discomfort because they find that celibacy does not chase away their inner demons. On the contrary, it invites those demons into a direct and unavoidable dialogue. Yet, for those who accept this challenging invitation, for those who persist through the fire of this inner confrontation, they discover something truly extraordinary. They find within themselves a space of immense power, of profound self-control, and a quality of freedom that very few people ever get to experience. This newfound power is independent of any other person, place, or thing. Some describe this experience as a great withdrawal of the soul, a homecoming. It's as if the mind, for the first time, is finally returning fully to the body, inhabiting it completely. It's as if, without the constant background noise of sexual desire, one can finally hear what had previously been silent. The quiet voice of intuition, the wellspring of creativity, and a palpable connection to something much, much greater than the individual self. This is precisely why so many of history's great artists, sages, spiritual leaders, and even inventors have practiced periods of abstinence throughout their lives. They did not do this out of a hatred for sex or the body, but because they understood a profound secret, that the stillness of the body at certain moments opens the doors of the mind. And it is in that sacred stillness that insights, revelations, and new directions emerge. Living without sex, whether for a specific period of time or even for a lifetime, is like diving deep into the ocean of yourself. It is a journey to discover what remains when the turbulent waves of desire finally subside. And what remains can surprise even the most skeptical among us. There is much talk about the effects of celibacy on the mind, but what about the body? What really happens inside our physical form when we don't have sex? Do our hormones go haywire? Does our body suffer, get sick, or does it, perhaps, get stronger? This is one of the most frequently asked questions, and it is surrounded by some of the most widespread myths. Some will claim with great conviction that sexual abstinence is harmful, that it causes an accumulation of toxins in the body. Others will swear with equal conviction that it prolongs life, strengthens health, and can even rejuvenate the physical form. So, who is right? The answer, like almost everything that concerns the complex human being, isn't that simple. Let's break it down. During frequent sexual activity, the body produces a veritable cascade of hormones. We have dopamine, the pleasure and reward hormone; oxytocin, the bonding and connection hormone; serotonin, the mood stabilizer; prolactin, and testosterone. It is a powerful biochemical cocktail that drives desire, creates connection, and reinforces the brain's reward pathways. When sexual intercourse is interrupted for a prolonged period, the body doesn't just deactivate these hormonal processes, it adapts. During the first few days or weeks of abstinence, it is quite common to feel an increase in tension. Testosterone levels may temporarily increase, especially in men. It's as if the body is making one last, concerted effort to rekindle desire, hoping for the satisfaction it is accustomed to. But over time, in the continued absence of sex, the body gets the message. It understands that the energy is not going to be used in that way, and so it begins to redirect its vast resources. Instead of focusing its vitality on the reproductive system, this life force begins to be felt in other areas of life. And when that happens, something radically changes within them. The body is no longer a battlefield of warring impulses, but a sacred temple. The mind no longer resists its own nature, and so it begins to flourish. The soul, for its part, can finally breathe more freely. Repression makes you smaller, weaker, more fragmented. Transmutation makes you larger, stronger, more whole. And therein lies the true power of the chosen ones. It is not that they feel nothing, but that they have learned to transform everything. There is a place within the human psyche where no one can lie. Not the chosen ones, not the saints, not even the most disciplined masters. This place is called the unconscious, and it speaks to us every single night through the mysterious language of our dreams. When a person consciously and intentionally chooses a life without sex, the body adapts and the conscious mind adapts. But the subconscious mind often resists. Behind the carefully curated scenes of the conscious mind, desire persists. It finds new pathways, new forms of expression, and it often seeps into our dreams. This is why, over time, many who choose this path report a noticeable increase in the frequency and intensity of their erotic dreams. They experience vivid fantasies and even physical sensations during sleep, such as chills, arousal, and yes, sometimes even nocturnal ejaculations. But what does this actually mean? Does it signify a failure of their resolve? It means that desire hasn't disappeared, and perhaps more importantly, it doesn't need to disappear. It has simply changed its location of expression. In our dreams, the subconscious reveals to us what still needs to be addressed, what needs to be accepted, and what needs to be understood. It comes not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a messenger to be heard. This powerful sexual energy, when it is not expressed physically in the waking world, naturally seeks symbolic outlets. It appears in our dreams in unlikely images, through encounters with unexpected people, and in bizarre situations. This happens not because something is wrong with the person, but because something powerful within them is still very much alive. The most serious mistake one could make would be to interpret these dreams as relapses, or even worse, as signs of some inner weakness. In reality, these nocturnal experiences are an integral part of the deep process of purification, of internal reorganization, and of integration. The ancients already knew this. In the tradition of Tantra, for example, erotic dreams were considered to be manifestations of Shakti, the divine creative energy that rises along the spine and purifies the body's energy centers. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks learn to meditate even while in a state of lucid dreaming, observing these powerful images without identifying with them, letting them pass like clouds in the sky. And in the mystical traditions of Christianity, many saints described their nocturnal visions as tests of the soul, as divine invitations to cultivate even greater self-control and devotion. In other words, it's not a question of trying not to dream, but of knowing what to do with the dream once it has arrived. Some of the chosen ones begin to use their dreams as a conscious part of their spiritual journey. They write them down, they study the symbols, and they observe the recurring patterns for deeper insights. Others simply learn to breathe through the experience and let the dreams pass, knowing that the subconscious mind is simply recalibrating itself, eliminating excess energy and releasing built-up pressure. Over a long period of time, the nature of the dreams themselves begins to evolve. They become more subtle, more symbolic, less driven by raw desire and more focused on the process of integration. It is as if the mind, once it has been heard, ceases to cry out so loudly. And the subconscious, once it has been respected and honored, becomes a powerful ally on the journey. To live without sex does not mean to live without desire. It means learning to live at peace with it, even in those hidden corners of the mind where it still lurks, as it does in our dreams. For the truly chosen one does not flee from their own shadow. They listen to it, they honor it, and little by little, they learn to transform it into light. There is a centuries-old belief, deeply embedded in our culture, that sex is the very center of human vitality, that a life without sex is only half a life, a cold, lonely, and empty existence. But is this really true? Does a person truly weaken when they stop expending their sexual energy? Or is it perhaps the other way around? Most people will never know the answer to this question, because they have never lived long enough without sex to feel what happens after the initial absence, after the period of abstinence, after the discomfort has passed. But the chosen ones know. They live on the very edge of this great mystery. And almost all of them say the same thing. The energy returns, but it returns differently. At first, there can be a noticeable drop in energy. The body feels strange, out of sorts. The mind rebels against the new routine. The daily grind can feel heavy and burdensome. Everything seems to slow down, as if something essential is missing from the equation of life. But what feels like a missing piece is, in reality, only a period of profound reorganization. Think of it like a dam. When you first close the floodgates, the river behind it stagnates for a little while. The flow is disrupted, but then the water level begins to rise again. And when you learn how to consciously direct that immense pressure of water, it has the power to move mountains. The energy of the chosen one is not a frenetic or explosive energy. It is not that euphoric dopamine-charged energy that requires constant external stimulation to be maintained. It is a denser, calmer, and more sustained energy. It is an energy that sustains, that supports, and that focuses the mind. Some report a feeling of increased physical strength, a new kind of vigor and control over their bodies. Others speak of developing a magnetic presence, as if when they walk into a room, the entire atmosphere changes, even if they say nothing. This is not about physical appearance. It is about vibration. The unwasted energy, the life force that is conserved, begins to radiate out from them through other channels. Their gaze becomes more focused and direct. Their posture becomes straighter. Their breathing becomes deeper and calmer, and their voice takes on a new quality of assurance. This is what many ancient traditions call the life force, and it does exist. But for most people, this precious energy is fragmented, scattered among 1,000 distractions, automatic habits, and addictions to instant gratification. But for a select few who walk this path, this energy becomes concentrated, centered, and this inner center becomes solid and unshakable. This inner strength, of course, comes not simply from the absence of sex, but from the conscious transformation of that absence. For when desire is simply repressed and ignored, the body weakens. In fact, it can become frustrated and sick. But when desire is accepted, honored, and skillfully redirected, the body awakens to a new kind of life. Some train their bodies with intense discipline. Others meditate for hours a day. Others develop huge projects, serve their communities, teach, heal, and write, and this is precisely where their energy becomes inimitable. It is not seductive in the way that raw sexual energy is, but it is magnetic in the way that truth is. And anyone who approaches a person in this state feels it, even if they do not consciously understand it, even if they do not know why they feel it. The chosen ones do not shine by excess. They shine by their integrity. For all the energy that had once escaped from them has now returned to their deepest essence. And something powerful ignites within them, something that the world is no longer accustomed to seeing, but which has never, ever ceased to exist. When the chosen ones decide to live without sex, they quickly realize that simply denying their desire isn't enough. Desire doesn't just disappear on command. It is a living, powerful force that is always waiting for an opportunity to reveal itself. So, the critical question becomes, how can they transform this immense energy without drowning in it? The answer lies in the specific techniques that they learn and apply over time. These are practices drawn from ancient traditions and modern experiences, but they are all focused on the same goal: to control, to channel, and to transform desire. One of the most important and fundamental of these techniques is conscious breathing. Deep, conscious breathing has a powerful effect on the body and the mind. It calms them both down. Each deep inhalation soothes anxiety, and each slow exhalation releases built-up tension. When a powerful impulse of desire arises, deep breathing helps the person to avoid feeling overwhelmed by it. It creates a small space between the feeling and the reaction, and in that space, it helps you to observe the feeling without acting on it impulsively. This is why many experts recommend that celibacy be approached as a choice that comes with a deep commitment to self-awareness and self-care. It requires understanding the body's signals and respecting its boundaries. The secret of the chosen ones lies in their ability to listen to their bodies, to perceive their needs, and to use the appropriate tools to balance the flow of their vital energy. They know that celibacy is not a passive renunciation, but an active practice of transformation that involves the body, the mind, and the soul in a holistic way. And in this delicate balance, the body finds its true strength, not in absence, but in a state of conscious harmonization. Throughout history, many great teachers and sages from various traditions have described celibacy as an effective means of achieving spiritual growth. However, it is important to understand that it is neither a rigid rule that must be followed by everyone nor a form of punishment. It is a profound choice that can open the doors to a different, more complete, more connected, and more peaceful existential experience. In Buddhism, for example, celibacy is seen as a powerful way to overcome the desires that confine the mind and keep it trapped in a state of agitation. Monks learn that sexual desire is just one of the many currents that draw us into the endless cycle of suffering, which they call samsara. By consciously renouncing this powerful current, they seek to find a space of inner freedom where their consciousness can develop without the constant pull of distractions. In Christianity, the saints and mystics also practiced celibacy, seeing it as a sign of their total devotion to the divine. For them, this renunciation was not experienced as a loss, but as a great gain, an opportunity to live in direct and unmediated communion with God. Celibacy, in this context, becomes an act of pure love, a form of devotion that transcends the limitations of the body and reaches directly into the realm of the spirit. In the tantric tradition, celibacy can be undertaken as a phase of strengthening one's inner energy, a way of building up a reservoir of power that can open the way to an even deeper form of union, not between two physical bodies, but between the individual soul and the entire cosmos. The masters of this tradition teach that sexual energy is the very same creative force that creates the entire universe, and that when this energy is harnessed and directed inward, it can lead to enlightenment. However, all of these diverse teachings share one common idea: that celibacy is a means, not an end in itself. It is a powerful tool that can be used to expand our perception of reality, to deepen our self-knowledge, and to learn to live in harmony with who we truly are, beyond the confines of the physical body. Those who follow this path know that celibacy transforms their entire worldview. It invites them to look within, to question what is truly important in life, and to discover a sense of presence that is completely independent of external stimuli. And in the deep silence of this cultivated presence, something profound happens. A peace descends that is not simply the absence of conflict, but a bright, radiant light that illuminates the entire being from within. The chosen ones do not live in vain. Each step they take on this asexual journey is like a seed that is planted in fertile soil, not only for their own benefit, but also for the benefit of those around them. They carry within them a silent, almost invisible, yet immensely powerful legacy. It is a legacy that is not measured by material goods, by fame, or by social status, but by the living example of their strength, their confidence, and their authenticity. By choosing a life that is full of meaning and free from the tyranny of fleeting impulses, they show the rest of us that it is possible to inhabit this world in a different way. They demonstrate that true freedom lies not in the constant pursuit of instant gratification, but in the cultivation of self-mastery. They remind us that the body is a sacred instrument that can, and should, be guided by the wisdom of the mind and the soul. This legacy touches all of us because it challenges what we have come to accept as normal. It questions what is imposed on us by society as a biological necessity. It calls into question the unwritten rules of our culture and invites us to deep reflection. Must our desires always be granted? Is pleasure the only path to happiness? Is there a higher power residing within each of us that transcends all of this? The chosen ones respond to these questions with their very lives, with their quiet presence, with their profound silence, and with the light that shines from within them. They do not seek to convince anyone or to prove anything to the world. They are simply living the truth that they have discovered for themselves. And that, in itself, is a revolution. For all who are willing to listen, their journey is an invitation. It is an invitation to look within yourselves, to question your own perceived limitations, and to recognize that within you resides a power that is capable of changing your life, and, who knows, perhaps the entire world. For the legacy of the chosen belongs not only to them, but to all those who dare to seek beyond the obvious, for something greater, something timeless, something eternal. Meditation is another powerful technique used on this path. The simple act of sitting quietly and observing your thoughts and sensations as they arise, without identifying with them, trains your mind to strengthen itself. You become like a serene warrior on the battlefield of your own consciousness. Over time, this daily practice helps you to understand, on a deep, experiential level, that desire is fleeting. It is just a wave in the ocean of your being that rises and then falls. It is not an order that must be obeyed. Additionally, many people on this path engage in intense physical activity. This can be working out, running, practicing yoga, or engaging in martial arts. Any form of movement that helps to transform pent-up energy into productive energy is beneficial. The body in movement is a healthy and powerful outlet for this potent life force. There are also the creative channels that can be used to tap into the energy of desire. One can use it to create, to write, to compose music, to paint, or to dance. When sexual energy is transformed into art, it manifests itself in the world in beautiful and transformative ways. It is a profound way to give meaning and expression to one's rich inner life. And finally, there is the crucial element of community and support. Those who choose this path know that the journey does not have to be a lonely one. Sharing experiences, listening to the stories of others, and finding people who understand and support your choice can strengthen your resolve immeasurably. It is much easier to face the cravings and challenges when you feel that you are less alone on the path. These techniques, when combined with a clear intention and a goal that is greater than the craving of the moment, create a safe inner environment. They create a space where cravings don't dominate, but simply participate in the larger life of the individual. A space where the body doesn't suffer, but thrives. It is a difficult path, to be sure, but it is one that is rich in discovery, transformation, and personal growth. And those who choose it know that it's not about repressing desire, but about mastering it. Going for long periods without sex isn't just a physical or a mental challenge. It is, above all, a profound journey into the depths of one's own mind and heart. And this journey has the power to turn everything upside down. It changes your thoughts, your feelings, and even your core perception of who you are. At first, the mind can be restless and feverish. It is normal to experience intense and sometimes confusing desires that seem to want to control your thoughts and your feelings. This inner restlessness can generate a great deal of anxiety, frustration, and even irritation. After all, your body and your mind have been accustomed to seeking quick gratification and relieving tension through physical pleasure for most of your life. But over time, if you stay with the process, something changes. The mind, which was once tormented by these urges, begins to calm down. Your thoughts become less repetitive and obsessive. The heart begins to open up to other, more subtle joys. The joy of silence, the joy of true community, the joy of a simple sense of peace. On the other hand, prolonged celibacy can also lead to profound emotional challenges. Feelings of loneliness, of neediness, and even of deep sadness can arise, especially if the person lacks a clear sense of purpose or a strong network of emotional support. In this vulnerable situation, many of the chosen ones are confronted with their own inner ghosts, their deepest insecurities, their fear of rejection, and their nagging self-doubt. But what distinguishes those who succeed on this path is their ability to look at themselves with compassion. They learn to accept these difficult feelings without judging them or running away from them. It is a daily practice of self-love that, over time, develops a powerful emotional resilience. Many people who walk this path report that over time they develop a greater degree of emotional intelligence. They gain the ability to perceive and accurately name their emotions and to understand their origins. They learn how to transform their fear into motivation, their sadness into a tool for reflection, and their loneliness into an opportunity for deeper self-awareness. This inner transformation doesn't happen overnight. It is a slow, sometimes painful, but profoundly liberating process. And the incredible thing is that many of the chosen ones discover that by taking care of their mind and their emotions in this way, their body responds harmoniously. Their overall health improves, their sleep becomes deeper and more restful, and their energy becomes more balanced and stable. Ultimately, lasting celibacy isn't just about living without sex. It's about learning to live with yourself, with all of your complexity, all of your lights, and all of your shadows. And for those who choose this path, this is the true accomplishment. The decision to live without sex goes far beyond the body. It affects the very essence of a person's relationship with the world, with other people, and with themselves. And this is precisely where many of the chosen ones face some of their most unexpected challenges. At first, it is common to feel a sense of distance from others, a kind of invisible barrier that seems to separate the chosen one from those around them. Their friends, their family, and any potential partners may all remain trapped in the familiar cycle of desire, physical affection, and sensual intimacy. Often, without understanding this profound choice, they may even question it, judge it, or withdraw into themselves out of confusion. For the chosen person, this can create a deep sense of social loneliness, which affects not only the physical aspect of sex but also the need for emotional connection. They begin to perceive themselves differently, as if they are operating on a wavelength that few other people can grasp. However, this state of being single can also pave the way for deeper and more authentic relationships. By not focusing on the pursuit of physical pleasure, conversations can become more authentic. Emotional connection becomes more present and valued. Many people on this path find that they develop a greater sensitivity toward others, an empathy that goes far beyond the superficial. In the context of romantic relationships, celibacy presents a paradox. On the one hand, it can deter potential partners who see a sexual relationship as a fundamental basis for connection. On the other hand, it can attract people who are seeking a true spiritual connection and who respect the other person's inner journey. It becomes very important for the chosen ones to learn how to communicate their decision clearly and lovingly. It is important for them to face the judgments of others without losing their own sense of truth, and above all, to develop a strong foundation of self-esteem and self-respect. A life without sex can be challenging, but it is also an expression of autonomy and meaning. Some people on this path join communities of like-minded individuals who share their values. They may find spiritual groups, support circles, or shared meditation practices. In these spaces, they find the acceptance, understanding, and true friendship they need to sustain them on their journey. Ultimately, celibacy does not have to isolate a person. Instead, it redefines their relationships. It challenges our conventional understanding of what intimacy, love, and presence really mean. And for those who embark on this journey, a new kind of connection is created, one that goes beyond the physical to a profound bond of respect, light, and authenticity. When we talk about the rare people who live without sex, many questions naturally arise about the impact this choice has on the body. Does prolonged celibacy improve physical health, or does it carry hidden risks? The reality is that the human body is a complex machine with an incredible capacity for adaptation. When sex is removed from one's regular routine, the energy associated with it doesn't just disappear from the body, it reorganizes itself. And this reorganization can bring both benefits and challenges. Among the most commonly cited benefits are an increase in focus and energy. Without the constant hormonal fluctuations that are associated with sexual desire and activity, many people feel more balanced and less tired on a daily basis. Additionally, from a purely practical standpoint, sexual abstinence can reduce the risk of contracting certain sexually transmitted infections and diseases. Another positive aspect often reported is the feeling of having greater control over one's bodily urges. Some practitioners claim that the discipline required for celibacy contributes to better posture, greater body awareness, and even a stronger immune system, thanks to the reduction of chronic stress that can come from the pursuit of sexual gratification. But it's important to be honest here. Prolonged celibacy can also carry risks if it is not practiced consciously and in a balanced manner. A lack of sexual relaxation can lead to an accumulation of physical tension, especially if practices aimed at channeling this energy, such as exercise, meditation, or breathing techniques, are not regularly practiced. In some people, these unresolved tensions can manifest as muscle pain, irritability, insomnia, and even hormonal imbalances. Additionally, a complete lack of sexual stimulation can, over time, affect the blood circulation in the genital area, which in some extreme cases can lead to discomfort or dysfunction.